Good day, everyone. We are from Animation Group 5.
Hi.
Today, we're going to talk about the exposure sheet. Right. Let's go.
Let's go.
Alright, first of all, you're going to be wondering what is an X sheet. As its full name is called an exposure sheet, also known as dope sheet. Here, let me show you what it looks like. This piece of paper with a table on it, it is a legendary sheet. That's right, traditional. Specifically, in the cell animation, done in the 1930s and 40s. These days, animators don't rely on it so often as in the past, since they are programmed on computers that function just the same now.
Now that you know what an X-sheet is, let's take a look at its purpose. The X-sheet is used to record the sequence and order of its cell layer, the number of exposures given to each layer, as well as the movement of camera, background, or compound. The director would use this sheet to keep track of their intent on how the animation should go. It is a way of communication between the director and the cameraman. Independent animation also uses it to have better plan their animation and timing their works.
And that sums up the basic idea of X-sheet. Now, you are probably going to wonder, why do I need to use it when animating? Can't I just draw everything and just animate it? To answer that question, yes, you can. Just draw everything and try to animate it. But then, you will be facing the biggest problem every animators do, timing. See, the point of using the X-sheet is to keep track your animation timing so that you're able to count how many drawings needed to be drawn. In cell animation, not everything needs to be drawn and redrawn repeatedly, as each layers can be removed and changed to what is needed in sequence. Even in modern animation uses computers, the situation is the same. That's why the X-sheet is used to help animators to count the numbers of frames they need to draw for the animation.
Allow me to further explain the X-sheet help to dissect each component of the animation to identify the layer of action and record the number of frames. That way, the animator are able to track their own timing in the animation. You're still probably scratching your head and wondering how that works. Well, timing in animation is counted in number of frames. FPS of frame per second is the indicate how many frames are needed to create the 1 second worth of animation. The X-sheet is then used to identify it for the animator to ensure they are able to create that smooth animation they need. So basically, the X-sheet help animator to check their timing in addition to delivering the idea to cameraman.
Alright, you've already heard from the explanation earlier. Now, I'll show you the tutorial. As you've heard earlier, the X-sheet is actually used in cell animation for traditionally. So, let me show you how it is actually used at traditional cell animation. Let's take a closer look. As you can see from the cell animation here, it comes with the label of animator, meaning the name of the person who's going to do it, the production, company, the team, scene number, sequence number, the length, sheet number, and any additional notes that you may want to write down according to the animation itself. Here, you can see is the number of frames. Each row equals to 1 frame. And every box has 8 frames. So every 3 box would be your 24 frames per second. The action column is for you to label down what is needed for every action in that scene itself and that frame. The sound, also known as the dialogue, where each word is mentioned. And then, of course, there is the most important part here. These columns indicates the layers of the cell itself. BG standing for background. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is actually the layers of the animation itself. Finally, on the last column, you have the camera. This is where you write the notes for the cameraman itself. If you're an individual animator, this is where you write a note for yourself, whether you want to zoom in or trolley and such stuff. So, how do you use these columns here? When it comes to animating, for animation itself, it's typically 24 frames per second. But back then, the animators had one very big problem. It was time consumption and budget. So in order to consume all of this in the most optimized way, animators found out that they can draw the animation and leave it in twos. When it comes to animating on twos, it means that 1 frame can actually be animated into 2 frames itself. So when done in twos, a 24 frames per second will only consist of 12 frames to represent that 24 frames per second. It will be like this. You count it as 1, skip a line, 3, skip another line, 5, skip another line, 7, another line, 9, and etc. This is how you count in twos, whereby the numbers indicate the drawing itself. As you can see from an example here, I will show you. The background here is plain. So let's put the background in an X. This is to show that there is an absence of background. Now as I try to animate the picture, we have the figure itself. So that will be the 1 here. The cape, let's put it as another layer. So we use it on the second layer here. We put it as another 1 here. The hair, which will be separately animated, another layer. And we move on to the second layer itself. So in the second step, as you can see here, there was a slight movement in the body. So it means the frame has moved for every frame itself. So for mine here, it will be filled on ones. On ones is that every single frame, you will have a new drawing. So it's 1, 2, 3, continuing on with the 4 drawings and everything, 5, 6, and etc. The same will be repeated for the others as well, as every frame, there is a movement in every single part of it. So everything here is animated in ones. All of these will continue. Now, when all of this is done and filled up, and you've reached here, remember, this 3 box is 1 second. So that's 24 frames per second. And in order to do all this calculation, you will know how many frames you would need to do that smooth 24 frames per second. And that's basically how you use the X sheet. Thank you. And that's all from us in Group 5. I hope you were able to learn what the X sheet is about. To sum everything up, the X sheet here basically was used in the 1940s and 30s for traditional animators, so that they could save their time and their budget in order to animate it properly. And you've heard everything from us.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching.
Alah, macam ni pula.